Not quite Sunlust, so I guess this is not quite the end of Dean of Doom. The usual, Mount Pain 27 has still given me consent to make this video. If you've not seen the original, I can't find my mouse. There it is. Please, close this now, go to his channel, go give him your first view, and come back here, and we will watch this together. Now, not quite Sunlust. I'm quite ready to hit the play button. Alright.
Hello there, I'm Mount Pain 27, and this is
Oh, and for today's snack, I'll be having a cookie from McDonald's while we watch this.
Dean of Doom. The show will be raised to classic and contemporary Doom wads. Why? Because ranking things is fun. Today, Dean of Doom Season 3 comes to a close. But the show's not done yet. Not quite.
Mmm. Chocolate chip cookie. Oh, wow!
Danny Babenga Jakobsen and Zachary Ribbix Stevens released 4 prominent wads before Sunlust: Crumpets, Combat Shock 2, and Stardate 20XD6. Taken together, they form a preview of what was on the horizon, containing glimmers of Final Doom, Hell Revealed, The Scythes, Speed of Doom, and Sunder. This hazy nebula would come together in 2015 to form a star. I thought it would be fun to end the season with a super teaser for Dean of Doom's last ride, but don't mistake this for an exhibition of...
Oh, I called it! I called it! I had a feeling there was going to be a Season 4. I didn't feel like there was going to be a Season 5, so... Unless I'm intuiting this wrong. I guess there you go. Season 4 is the finale.
End the season with a super teaser for Dean of Doom's last ride, but don't mistake this for an exhibition of mere curiosities. All 4 of these wads are classics which inspired a multitude of creators. I hope today's episode captures a small part of this tetralogy's magic, grandeur, brilliance, and brutality. Now, I think you know the drill by now, so I'll just read the rules one more time and we'll get started.
All right.
We play on ultraviolence and must pistol start each level. I need to play the wad twice before reviewing it. Saves are allowed, and we go for 100% kills in all levels, making exceptions when it's just not worth it. Today we'll be using Z-Doom and DSDA Doom, and all 4 wads are boom compatible. Now to Not Quite Sunlust.
Now, I could be wrong, Vibes Plan. Of course, this is only interpretation. To me, at least, I don't feel like he's running out of steam. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like he's running out of steam. It doesn't come across that way anyway. It comes across to me that he's kind of touched on all the major releases, all the big stuff that's already come out that's worth I don't want to say that's worth talking about, because everything is worth talking about, but like, he's touched on enough that he's made his impact. That's what I feel anyway.
Let's start with Crumpets, a 2015 wad by Ribbix that grew out of a desire to sharpen the old speed mapping claws and decompress during map development for other projects, including You Know What. Composed of small, low-occupancy ballistic nocturnes, Crumpets is often described as one of Ribbix's gentlest and most approachable works, which is why we're using it to warm up for the rest of Not Quite Sunlust. Let's put a pot on to boil and grab some tea bags. Map 1, Earl Grey. What's this, the Doom World Megawad Club? Shoot the switch and sip from the mug to start your adventure. Map 2, Flutter. A cheerful nighttime stroll through a land where castles steep in tea. Flutter is the chummiest Ribbix map I know of. This tiny sandbox is seasoned with a pinch of almost every non-boss monster and lets you play with all the weapons except the SSG and BFG. Even Berserk. Ever the thoughtful game master, Ribbix encourages the player to explore from every angle. The plasma rifle in the yellow key cave helps with the feature fight, but it's totally optional. In fact, so is the yellow key. Inquisitive climbers can scooch around the border of the Rocket and Baron arena to an early exit if they so desire. Above all, Flutter is cozy and welcoming, and it's nice to see a mapper known for his foreboding creations be gentle. Grade
Oh, is this from Wind Waker? I didn't know that.
D+. Map 3, Tiramisu. Just because it's called Crumpets doesn't mean it's going to be a cakewalk. Tiramisu is petite even by this map set's standard, and that means every demon can see you pretty much all the time. You can't expect to get bounties of health and ammo in playing Ribbix maps, and Tiramisu makes a point of whipping you into shape in that way. Wriggle onto the Berserk trap, be prepared for payback when you snap up the Soul Sphere, and if you infight prudently and keep a keen eye on the Archies and heavy weapon dudes, you should be able to coast through the rest. Don't waste ammo on these boneheads or the Arachnotron. I've belatedly discovered this secret telefragger 3 times now. I like Tiramisu. And also this map. It's a bit different in difficulty, but too short to make dying a punishment.
I've never had Tiramisu.
A-, difficulty B.
Hey, Nero.
Map 4, Bokuma. Demons have the right to children. After an opening fight that'll flatten players who refuse help from Mr. Mancubus, Bokumo relaxes into a dreamy castle caper that's much comfier than tiramisu. The surprise attacks offer plenty of ad-lib room, and the only fight worth fearing can be cheesed by teasing one of the Archviles out of his hiding place before dropping down. The Revenant rush at the end should be a cinch if you held on to some rockets, or there's a bulk cell in BFG that I spent 5 fruitless minutes looking for. Maybe next time. Grade A-,
Hey, Bonker.
difficulty C+. Footnote, according to the text file, this was the first map Rivix made for Crumpets, concocted while he was figuring out Sunlust Map 14's texture theme. Map 5,
How neat.
Mint Chocolate. If only it didn't have such a mean streak. Mint Chocolate's MIDI sings an enchanting harmony to this gorgeous emerald grotto, making this my favorite Crumpet to walk around in when everything is dead. About that, 2 of these fights strike me as unduly difficult. The SSG scrum makes dodging Mancubus projectiles harder than stealing donuts from them, and the Cyber Demon Canyon is so damn
Don't do their donuts.
frustrating. I'll take a rap on the knuckles and a get good scrub if you disagree, but 3 BFG shots to take out a Cyber and Archvile in a tight squeeze is a big ask. If you go at it guns blazing,
If you do it with only 3 in that side of a corridor, yeah. Because you have to aim... You have to both aim carefully so you don't waste a shot. But you gotta be quick because you will very quickly run out of space. So... That sounds very luck reliant. You have to, probably immediately blast the Archvile because there doesn't seem like there's much cover. Or get lucky and the Cyber will blast the Vial and then you can just use him to block rockets and then it should be... I don't know. I'll play this someday and we'll see, you know.
it's not easy to keep Arch.
Also, I don't like mint chocolate as a delicacy, so, you know, I'm sure that'll bode well for me.
Distracted, so try to get him killed and then find a sweet spot to 2-tap Cybe.
Oh, there you go.
Definitely want to save a scoop of mint chocolate for the final fight.
Oh, Jesus.
I really want to like this map, but it always leaves me feeling scorned. Grade B+, difficulty A-. Map 6, Masquerade. Masquerade shows that it means business from the first, and unexpectedly, there's a lot of fun to be found in its most excessive crampage. This Crumpet refuses to respect your personal space. Slip past 4 barons and some heavy artillery, grab a tucked-away backpack, and purchase the plasma rifle by puncturing a point-blank Archvile posse. Whether you raid the Revenant room or face down this Hell Knight hunting party, getting the rocket launcher proves a sticky errand, and this pop-up fight will kill you quickly if you don't know what's coming. The double Cyber duel at the end is a decadent indulgence with access to this bulk cell stash.
Ooh. Oh, God.
Unless you repeatedly screw the pooch. I confess this map gets lost in my memory banks. Crumpets' textural consistency gives it a strong identity as a complete product at the cost of individual baked goods being harder to tell apart. Grade A-, difficulty B+. Map 7, Frog and Toad. Be afraid
That's not food!
when Rivix calls a map hard as nails. Frog and Toad can be finished quickly, albeit at great risk. The switch that lowers the yellow key is out in the open, but you won't have the hardware to handle its hellfire. Sane players and UV Maxers should take the scenic route, though that's no better.
Is this a Final Fantasy Tactics song? Hang on. It sounds like Trisection. Hang on just a moment. Doom... I'm looking this up on my phone. Doom Wiki Crumpets. It is Trisection! It's like the, I don't know, I think it's like the battle theme from Tactics. I don't really remember.
Hardware to handle its hellfire. Sane players and UV Maxers should take the scenic route, though that's no bed of roses either. Frog and Toad is a valentine to turret monsters. Rivix likes to unveil new purposes for them just when you think you're safe, and he doesn't give you enough ammo to take them out until those purposes have been served. Case in point, the Revenant trio that hounded you at the beginning plays a starring role in this acerbic little fight. Avoiding Archie's glower while dodging green globs, Revenant missiles, and your own rocket detonations is no easy task, but victory unlocks a plasma rifle and precious cell supply. Use the turret Mank and Baron to distract the key players in the SSG pit, check this corner for a BFG before you reach for the Megasphere, and banish the vile bone swarm with a few bumps of big green to nab the yellow key. Crumpets is often lumped in with so-called coffee break wads, but by this point in my playthroughs, I'm usually smoked. A short playtime does not mean no effort required.
Well, this seems like you're caffeinated.
A-.
You are fully
Map 8,
caffeinated.
Shamu. Though
Like the
undoubtedly
whale?
the most menacing looking Crumpet, Shamu Shamu is far from the scariest whale one can swim with, less predacious than even maps 6 and 7. Unless you're a good listener, you won't find a single shotgun in here, and bullets are fairly limited, so the plasma rifle is your workhorse weapon. If possible, save rockets for archvile-related emergencies or major scrapes. The beginning and ending of Shamu give me the most trouble. Pushing nearly weaponless through a pack of revenants, pinkies, and pain elementals while chain gunners and mounted macubi harangue you takes a lot of bravery, and I don't advise starting the Battle of T Gulch before you're healthy and well stocked. Hitting the skull switch blocks the escape teleporter and summons a cavalcade of demons that brings the kettle to a boil. If you get clever and make the cyber demon kill everything, Ribik's thought of that too. Lowering the escape teleport barrier prompts a double-primed archvile wake-up call. Shamu's Nocturnal Disquiet predicts Sunlust map 14 and 15 even more than the other crumpets. Grade A-, difficulty A-. Map 9, Crackerjack. The biggest, baddest...
Okay, that's another tactics song.
Crackerjack is a tricksy open-world ball-buster blanketed with bullets. 5 spider masterminds and 33 chain gunners have the tea-drenched grounds.
Holy
on
shit,
lockdown.
alright.
You'll have to fight through the keep for a yellow keycard before you can counterattack. Duke it out with a pair of vials, let the skeletons infight with the chain gunners, and telefrag the cyber obstacle with a hidden button in the vial closet.
So I think Ribix likes Final Fantasy Tactics, if I had to guess. Because I think there's a Tactics MIDI in Sunlust as well.
You have to pass between the yellow pylons to raise stairs to the eastern and western outposts. Kinda cryptic, but at least at this point you're free to go hunting for goodies. Climbing to this lion switch lands you a mega armor and blue boba, and right by the exit there's a step up to a triple telefrag that saves you considerable aggravation. Speaking of which, I've seen this gaggle of pain elementals generate upwards of 300 lost souls, so it's worth going all in on their extermination. For the cybers, you can always use the cells stashed behind the row of skull switches. Crackerjack's spacious layout encourages lateral thinking more organically than the smaller entries in this map set. Together with Ribix's ornate lighting and bewitching MIDI choice, it's one of Doom's most peaceful domains when the gunfire quiets and makes for an ideal conclusion to the set. Grade A, difficulty A-.
Alright.
So, I've never fully embraced Crumpets for the simple reason that it makes me tense. The economy and professionalism of Ribix's work is beyond critique, and Crumpets is more lenient.
The little mouse shake when he saw the thank you.
Hence, the economy and professionalism of Ribix's work is beyond critique.
I don't know why that made me laugh, but that's really funny.
And Crumpets is more lenient than is usual, but its gameplay gets airtight almost to the point of unpleasantness, chafing against the RPG music and soft torchlit prettiness. Getting beat up by a wad named after a fluffy baked good also makes me feel like a victim of false advertising, but now I'm really nitpicking. If you go in with properly calibrated expectations, Crumpets is a handsome, refined, and consistent set of maps. It's also a great practice ground for folks who want to start playing tougher maps saveless. My final grade for Crumpets is an A-. Difficulty-wise, as I've said, this is one tough cookie, so let's go with an A- on that as well. Now for a Crumpets Dean's list. Valedictorian, Map 9, Crackerjack. Salutatorian, Map 2, Flutter. Class President, Map 7, Frog and Toad, and the dunce cap goes to Map 5, Mint Chocolate. Next up to the plate is Combat Shock, a 4-map slaughter wad released in 2011 by Danny Babinga and his first major statement in the Doom community. According to its creator, Combat Shock began as a Plutonia tribute before, quote, going bananas, an apt description since it's heavily influenced by Insane Gazebo and the first 14 maps of his magnum opus, which hit Doom World shelves 2 years prior to C-Shock. With map titles cribbed from Yakuza movies and a soundtrack which samples Hexen, Duke Nukem 3D, Thundercats, and Twin Peaks, Combat Shock is an eclectic pack of obvious rough edges, but for newbie work in the early 2010s, it's a clear cut above and laid the foundation for Danny's rapid development throughout the decade. Let's have a look. Map 1, Agitator. Combat Shock loads with Plutonia.
Well, you got the best TNT MIDI right here.
Throughout the decade. Let's have a look. Map 1, Agitator. Combat Shock loads with Plutonia.wad for a reason. You'll be picking the lead out of your ass before the drums kick in, and the rest of the map seesaws between teaching moments and unprovoked smacks across the face. The Revenant and Mancubus dance reminds you that infighting is your friend, and the Chain Gunner Spectre bit foreshadows this firing squad.
Oh,
but
wow.
then Archviles start appearing out of nowhere. The first one's not bad if you don't back into the Chain Gunner shooting gallery, but the one leading this Revenant charge decides that the fight is a death or an inconvenience, and the back-to-back Guts Room Martians are totally underhanded. Agitator's final fight is a put-up or shut-up moment, and will essentially determine whether or not you choose to finish Combat Shock. 2 teleporters gush demons while 2 pairs of Revenants snipe you from the stands. The limited supply of health and rockets, pesky cacos, and the fireball-spewing man caboose make this fight extremely agitating. For a then-developing mapper, Danny demonstrates...
For the, to use the MMO term here, this fight would be, considered the door boss If you could beat this, you could probably beat anything else in the WoD. Is generally that's the terminology. I'm assuming that's the idea.
Demonstrates impressive control of his encounters, even the cheapest spring-loaded ones. But Agitator has some unignorable clunkiness. The revs and manx waiting for you after the blue keycard are pointless, the archviles guarding the elevator in the ending room are awkward, and the visuals are capricious and occasionally garish. But even so, Agitator captures your attention. Grade B+.
It does not let go, I guess.
2. Gozu. Well, we're already over 1,000 monsters.
Oh boy.
Welcome to Combat Shock. You can tell Danny was itching to open things up after Agitator. Gozu's opening shot serves a heaping helping of Sunder-style macro architecture that promises to crush you. The opening sequence is the hardest part of the map, at least for me. I avoid shooting for as long as possible to keep the masterminds asleep. You can get the Barons, Chain Gunners, and Revenants to downsize each other, but it's unfeasible to keep up the Pacifist Act past the Archvile Corral. When you finally open fire, two
Jesus
Cyber
Christ.
Demons and a bunch of caged Revenants spawn in, and the Spider Queens start peppering the whole arena. It's a hell of a task, cutting through the vials without getting sideswiped by a rocket or gunned down like a dog, but
This looks so fun. And I think pretty soon we're going to be playing Combat Shock 2. I say pretty soon, relatively soon. Sometime in the next few months, Combat Shock 2. I'm looking really forward to it after seeing this.
if you make it through this door, the Cybers will bag and tag whatever's left. In the Ruby Cavern, Danny hands you a BFG and floors the gas pedal for the first time. This bloody sugar rush stands far above the rest of Gozu. It's a crowd pleaser with enough peril to keep replays fresh. Surprisingly, the turret masterminds are the most dangerous enemies in the room. They can turn on you without warning and devour your health, so it's probably best to nuke them quickly or keep your distance. I hope you don't waste the Megasphere Danny gives you after that, because this seemingly rote infight party takes a disastrous turn if you're not expecting...
Oof.
Yeah. Yellow Yorick squashes the spider snipers and unlocks the metal sanctum. I won't say the two-part finale is easy, but the invul might have been overgenerous. If you pounce on the vials before they get warmed up and the cyber demons infight fruitfully, you'll have enough ammo and breathing room to
Oh, that was close.
Gozu is a delayed gratification exercise, but meaty rewards are in store for those who can beat the opening stone wall. Grade A-, difficulty X-.
All right.
Map 3, Fudo. One of the best decisions Danny made putting this map together was to lead with swarms of popcorn. The opening fight is a 300-monster rocket dump, and a battalion of Hell Knights and Imps guard the BFG.
This
These
looks so fun.
splurges don't challenge the player so much as keep them psyched between hardcore fights. Oddly enough, there aren't too many of those in Fudo. Pound for pound, this might be Combat Shock's easiest map. The Mancubus, Chain Gunner, and Archvile corridor and the Big Brown Tunnel are fairly painful when approached directly, but everything else leading up to the main stage showdown is more time-consuming than terrifying. Anyone familiar with the final room from Sunder's The Furnace should be able to see this storm developing from miles off. Press 4 buttons in the chapel, shimmy to the red key, and let it come down.
God, this looks so fun. I am not familiar, so someday I will be.
You get 1 Megasphere and 1 Mega Armor for this downpour, and you can't take cells for granted either. If you've dumped out your backpack, you're not going to like what happens when the front door unlocks. Fudo has some drawbacks. Off the top of my head, the spider blockade and the green room chapel cleanup are a bit tedious, and these stairs don't account for Doomguy's inflexible neck, but I love its apologetic power trippiness, and it has the most consistent visual character in the WoD. Grade A, difficulty A+. Map 4, Misatsu. Good grief. Misatsu is Japanese for annihilation, and Danny may have borrowed it from one of Street Fighter's super combos. In both senses, it's the perfect title for this behemoth. Misatsu is an interminable chain of violent vignettes that will grind your resolve to dust. Combat Shock and its sequel take plenty of cues from Sunder, but Misatsu displays Gazebo's influence as proudly as any map Danny Babinga has made. The staggering view of the Great Hall and this invulnerability-fueled BFG fight explicitly evoke the Furnace again, and the prominent use of orange and hexagon.
I've heard this MIDI before, and I don't know where it's from. I think it's from Hexen? I think he said it was... I don't know.
Floor designs point to Hive Mother and Obsidian Nightmare. There's even a bit of Precarious thrown in for the heck of it. Beating Misatsu takes more commitment than skill. Fights that can't be outright exploited, like the Yellow Skull Key Room, test your patience more than your reflexes. There's a hypnotic quality to the process of felling regiments of Hell Knights, Revenants, Imps, Hell Knights, Imps, Hell Knights, Imps, Hell Knights. Ooh, sorry. Where was I? Ironically, the more aesthetically formidable it gets, the easier Masatsu becomes. For example, the humble starting room, which limits your rockets and floods with imps that can follow you into the Revenant Boomerang for some reason, is much more finicky than the penultimate blockbuster, which becomes safe to orbit once you can bypass the Baron blockade. The Invuln fight I mentioned earlier is the only spot where you can screw yourself over. Save enough white screen to liquefy the Archviles, or you might get stuck here for good. As much as I enjoy gaping at the final deluge, I've already seen about 4 comparably awesome fights by this point, and after a while, the monolithic begins to turn monotonous. I don't think Masatsu is boring exactly, but it plays like scenes from Danny's idea bin stitched together in a hopefully sensical order and overdoses on grandiosity in the process. Grade B, difficulty.
That still looks so fun!
So, for a debut solo project in 2011...
Ah, yes! The premiere Combat Shock map, Ghost Town!
Combat Shock would have been second only to Sunder as an envoy for highbrow slaughter in an era that did not look favorably on the genre. Perhaps it's unfair to compare it to Danny's later work, but it's only because of Combat Shock 2 and Sunlust that I think of this WAD as improvable. The titanic scale, snazzy visuals, and overwhelming hordes were all there from the beginning, but the delivery needed a bit of refinement. Like the movie True Romance, Combat Shock has several scenes that you can revisit over and over and they never get old, but you only need to watch the whole thing once. My final grade for Combat Shock is a B+. Difficulty-wise, expectations are high, so let's...
Not familiar with that movie at all. I was trying to think of a movie that is in that similar vein of, it's memorable, but you only need to see it once. Full Metal Jacket, there you go. That's a similar one, I think.
Minus.
Everybody knows the beginning of Full Metal Jacket, like the first 45 minutes. The rest you really only need to see once to get the idea.
I'm gonna lump these maps in with C-Shock 2 for the Dean's List segment, so let's lock and load the sequel.
Oh, Combat Shock 2. Alright, well, I'm going to be looking forward to this one, because this is what I will be playing much sooner.
Combat Shock 2 took almost exactly as long to develop as Doom 2. For Danny Babinga, a non-professional working by himself, it was a significant feat to double Combat Shock's map count and improve on it by every measurable metric in that amount of time. I think Danny discovered his directorial voice during C-Shock 2. His first project had a gift from Mighty Spectacles, but never felt half as connected and purposeful as Combat Shock 2. Combat Shock's maps could be excerpted or rearranged, but Combat Shock 2 demands all of your attention and pulls you along like a riptide. Let's begin. Map 1, Aftermath. What did Tom Mustaine's Infinite ever do to deserve a map like this? Cradled in green and bolted together with bones and steel bars, this chiseled stone fortress exudes danger and confidence. To see how far Danny's level design has come, look no further than fight number 1. This slippery Archvile shotgunning is one of the most exciting encounters I've played with low-tier weaponry. It's a deft juggling act that gives you just enough room and extra shotgun shells if you're quick. A perfect warm-up without any of Agitator's cheapo backstabbing.
I like the marine replacements.
To be bushwhacked. The first 3 keys are all guarded by plutonium memes, and touching the yellow skull brings a ferocious ambush down. This well-earned plasma rifle uncorking is the first fight to remind me of how brutal CS1 was, and we're not done yet. The cyber demon lurking outside this teleporter-fed cage fight is a fly in the ointment. It's very easy to lose track of his rockets in the crossfire, and each the token Archvile at the exit reads like a callback to old Combat Shock, and illustrates just how much more presence, control, and subtlety Aftermath has than Agitator. Grade A, difficulty A-. Map 2, Rope or Bullet. The weather's still glum, but I couldn't care less. This map is so much fun. Get your mitts on the rocket launcher, hop off the hill, and
See, you say the weather's glum, but to me, that's the best kind of weather right there. Bunch of clouds in the sky, you can't see the sun, maybe a little bit of rain. Perfection. I could live with that forever.
The fuse on a hectic Hell Knight and Revenant runaround. Gotcha Squad guards the skull keys, and picking them up unleashes even more Revenants, a green platoon, some Manx, and a medic. The Lost Soul Danny sprinkles into the mix raise the stakes on rocket usage, and the wall-top Hell Knights never give you a moment's peace. This is a quintessential run and gun, exactly the kind of scrambling action that made me fall in love with this game. The Skulls open 2 softcore slaughterfests. This time I locked myself in the Hall of Barons too early, but luckily there were enough rockets to choke point the rabble knocking on the door. Seeing all these pinkies pop out of the ground gives me great joy, but I'm not sure why Danny lets you retreat from the red key trap so easily. With the 2 key challenges tamed and the battlefield tidied, it's time to face the 3 deadliest monsters in the map. 2 shifty Archvile snipers and 1 cyber duelist. This gleeful pain in the ass requires finely honed Archvile spatial awareness, high sensitivity to auto-aim, and respect for cyber demons, but it's far too clever to get mad at. Besides, Map 25 of 180 Minutes Pour Vivre took this concept several steps further and put it in perspective for me. Rope or Bullet's freedom of movement and boyish love of carnage will always have a friend in.
That fight looks like a pain in the ass. Because you'd either have to quickly kill the Archviles, or somehow have the Cyber Demon damage the Archviles, and then use them to kill the Cyber Demon. To assist you in killing the Cyber Demon first. That looks like a pain in the ass.
Grade A, difficulty A. Map 3, Honegumi, charged with sinister energy from Primeval's MIDI. The incendiary Honegumi looks like the prototype for Sunlust's underground minisode. It's my favorite looking map in CS2's green half. The invasive drain pipes and ironclad fortress slam up against the gentle giant topography, hanging vines and trickles of groundwater. After digging the rocket launcher out of this depot, you'll be equipped to shatter these boneheads, staunch the chain gunner flow from the sewer, and shut down a cyber demon. With all the keys in hand, you can descend to my favorite fight in the map, an ecstatic plasma rave with imps, meatballs, and masterminds. That's the life for me. The chill factor drops precipitously in the next room, where a pair of cybers and more pain elementals pursue you in a maelstrom of pinkies and crisscrossing fireballs. There's caution tape around the gate switch for good reason. 120 Revenants pushes maximum occupancy in here. There's just barely enough cover to shake a mega missile, and one unlucky cyber rocket can end it all. This fiendish conclusion makes Honegumi a little harder to love than Rope or Bullet, but it's still propulsive, aggressive, and pretty. Grade A, difficulty A+. Map 4, Rapid Fire. That's 400 future corpses in the first room, boys and girls. With mass murder mode now fully engaged, Combat Shock 2 finally blossoms into an industrial Goliath. Believe it or not, this metal bastion has only 3 rooms, but they are full. Room number 1 warms you up with a regiment of tanks, cyber demons, floaters, and giblets. Room number 2 is a BFG refresher course that drips Archviles into a steadily filling Pinky and Hell Knight pen on a timer. Room number 3 just might be the main event of Combat Shock 2.
Oh my fucking god.
With a fat caveat. Stepping into this mega quake is exhilarating. For the first 2 minutes, you hardly have to shoot. Just waltz around the Revenant Pyramid and watch the whole place go up in a chorus of shrieks and kabooms. It's still one of my favorite jumbo-sized fights in Doom, those first 2 minutes. Unfortunately, the required cleanup is some serious drudgery, owing to the by-design backtracking up the staircase. The power pack of Pain Elementals and Kako Corner are a waste of time, and this rude Archvile double whammy smacks of Combat Shock 1 shenanigans. I'm not wild about whittling down this deafening spider colony that springs up around the Revenant Pyramid revival either. It's fun watching Arachnotrons get owned by Revenant missile clusters, but by now it's been an hour since I walked into this room and I want to do something else. The wind down is a wet blanket, but it doesn't extinguish Rapid Fire's highlights. Grade A-, difficulty.
That looks very fun. Oh.
Map 5, Boiling Point.
That is a great Iced Earth song, by the way, Boiling Point. Anyway, just, sorry.
It begins to wash over you while you're collecting weapons how very small you are. 150 demons trickle in while you're retrieving the shotguns, and in here, they're barely noticeable. 15 minutes later, after you've been hunted by cacos, shellacked by shotgunners, singed by spiders, and burned by the thralls of the Demon Forge, you pick up one key and realize this is just the beginning. That's when it sinks in. It's not going to take time to finish Boiling Point. Boiling Point is going to take its time finishing you. This adamantine colossus of a map strikes like waves against the seashore. Inevitably, over and over. After each crash, it becomes harder to hold your breath in the silences between. Boiling Point makes no attempt to surprise you or obfuscate the way forward. It shows you what lies ahead, and patiently waits for you to find what it wants you to see. There are few Doom maps more daunting and implacable than this, but unlike in the Rambling Masatsu, this oppressiveness doesn't translate to exhaustion. I can name maybe 2 other maps that make an hour and a half go by so quickly. Boiling Point gathers tension like a sponge and releases it in these huge, slow-motion eruptions that are beautiful to behold. The BFG Foundry is one of my favorite rooms in Doom. It's so full of menace it's almost trembling. Then you pick up the gun, press the switch, and whoosh, off it goes. Nothing compares except the final fight, which gives you a graciously long elevator ride to Prey beforehand.
Oh, wow!
Demons emerging en masse from a dark nothingness is fucking unnerving by itself, but imagine being an hour into a saveless run, and then steeling yourself for this. I wouldn't even think about trying it. Boiling Point is a monumental accomplishment, a totally unified object, and still one of the greatest ever Doom maps to make us feel puny and insignificant. Without Boiling Point, there wouldn't be a God Machine. Grade A+, difficulty X-.
Well, it certainly looks like my brand of enjoyable combat, but that's only based off of the seeing the combat. I'd have to actually see the map in action. I don't know, though. I'd have to... I'll see it for myself soon. Hey, Rico. How's it going?
Map 6, Closure. Following Boiling Point with something more definitive was a forlorn hope, but Danny Babinga gave it a good shot. Closure conjures traditional Doom hell with the best of them. I see No Chance, Scythe 2, Deus Vult, Alien Vendetta, and Plutonia in its genealogy, but structurally this is Danny through and through. Back-to-back battles against balconies and barracks of demons await your advance. The walls are packed with offal and bones, fire seeping from every orifice. I'd be a fool to complain that Closure is difficult, but it's more pinched than the rest of CS2, and I don't like that it makes you play avoidantly. The opening bloodbath punishes you for taking cover.
Oh, hello.
There's not much else you can do to mitigate damage out here. The up-close cybers and fatties are a big problem, especially when you still have shelves of Hell Knights and Revs to deal with. I like the side pocket fights though, especially this lava cave powder keg. Downshifting into phase 2 is always a relief. Even with the timer and crushers, this is platforming I can get behind. Fat steps close together with generous reset points. With the blue gate key in hand, you can set off a bone-breaking, imp-jibbing extravaganza that I count among my favorite fights in the WoD. Chop through throngs of heavies, cut down the spider demons guarding the final keycard, and you're bound for Hell's basement. After rock climbing down to a quickly dismantled ambush, lower the lava falls, and behold, 300 chain gunners, every one of them pining for their old uniforms. But that's not all. A dozen corpse will pop out of the exit in a desperate bid to spoil your victory. I don't really understand this ending. It's anticlimactic and a bit silly, especially since Combat Shock 2 had only been escalating in intensity and scale up to now. On the whole, Closure is no knockout punch, but its toasty halls are mostly filled with excitement.
But wait, there's more! You get an arch file absolutely free!
Grade B+, difficulty X. Map 7, Shocked for Life. More like...
This is a heretic midi.
Like, a bit surprised. Combat Shock 2's unofficial secret map is a comfy come down after several hours of serious dooming TM. The blue space sky and CC4's light greens have a lot to do with it, but Shocked for Life has always reminded me of Scythe X. Babinga and Alm's Chain Gunner and Mancubus tactics are definitely similar, but Danny does use 32 more Revenants than Scythe X did. For him, that's an admirable display of restraint. The carefree parking garage fight makes me think of Vanguard. Once you snuff the roaming vial, you can kick back and watch the mastermind make a fool of herself, kill her children, and defeat a cyber demon to get to the last switch. What is this, a kid's game? I judge this map a bit because the first 6 make it look mamby-pamby by comparison, but on its own it's perfectly nice. Grade B+, difficulty C+. So, Combat Shock 2 was my gateway drug to slaughter. After I finished it, I finally felt ready
Ah yes, the premier Combat Shock 2 map, Tricks and Traps!
Approach heavyweights like Haste, Sunder, Abandon, and more. I use the term drug intentionally. Once Slaughter earns a place in your Doom rotation, it can change the way you look at sane map sets, and studies show that Revenants have highly addictive properties. I'm calling it a Slaughter WoD like it belongs in some kind of bargain bin with Slaughterfest 2011, Holy Hell, and Occupluck, but Combat Shock 2 offers a lot of runway before takeoff for Crazy Town, making it quite accessible, and it has a more developed visual narrative than many challenge WoDs released in old Sunder's era. The two sets have different objectives, but I believe Combat Shock 2's gameplay is better than Sunder's. Map 5 specifically often gets compared to Gazebo, but Boiling Point's pacing and the phrasing of its action demonstrates that Danny learned enough from worshipping Sunder to improve on it. My final grade for Combat Shock 2 is an A. Difficulty 1.
This is completely unrelated to the video or anything, but I just want to point out, I think it's funny how much of Tricks and Traps is actually optional. You only need to go to the Baron Cyber Demon room, then you go to the Yellow Key room, then you go to the exit. That's all you have to do. Everything else is optional.
Wise, I actually beat this before Combat Shock because Gozu slammed the door in my face. But after review, I would say they're equally hard, and CS2 doesn't take much longer to beat, so X-. Now for my Combat Shock Dean's list.
Alright.
Valedictorian, Combat
Boiling
Shock
Point.
2 Map 5,
Yep.
Boiling Point. Salutatorian, Combat Shock 2 Map 2, Rope or Bullet. Class President, Combat Shock 2 Map 6, Closure, and the dunce cap goes to Combat Shock Map 4, Masatsu. Alright, back to Ribix we go.
Alright.
Fueled by mapping momentum from Slaughterfest 2012, Stardate 20XD6 was Rubik's first serious solo release after a string of idiosyncratically titled one-offs.
This is also coming up soon in my to-play list.
Stardate is well known for its green to purple palette swapping. Rubix explains in the text file that he overdosed on the color because he couldn't think of any other map sets that used it extensively. The text file does not explain the origin of the WAD's distinctive title, but Stardate apparently refers to the Star Trek unit of time and alludes to the WAD's sci-fi setting, and 20XD6 is a reference to Strongbad, or rather Stinko Man, from Homestar Runner.
Are you asking for a challenge?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am.
Fusing elements of
I have also never seen Homestar Runner. All I know about it is Trogdor because it was in Guitar Hero. So don't worry. I'm sure this comes as no surprise to you, Mount Pain, but I also missed out on that little cultural stage. I don't know. I forget who told me this, but I'd have somebody tell me that it's not pronounced Stardate 20X6 because that's how I used to say it. But you know.
Insane Gazebo, Darkwave, Death Destiny, and Danny Babinga, Stardate 20XD6 made Rubix's name synonymous with high difficulty and played a critical role in elevating Slaughter Mapping's profile. Now, who's ready for some purple? Map 1,
Me!
Amethyst 2. Few WADs state their creative goals as swiftly and succinctly as Stardate 20XD6. Rubix acclimates the player to a regimen of surprise attacks, turret enemies, and infighting, and rewards attentive treasure hunters with secrets like little pearls.
I've seen a little bit of this WAD because I've seen Spectre play it a little bit, and it looks like a fucking doozy.
Not all of them are free, though. This early arch file surprised me almost as much as the lack of Doom 3's plasma sound. I think this is the last time Rubix didn't use it. Amethyst 2 is a real looker. The violet inlaid rocket launcher room is a particular geometric pleasure, but every purple splash and slash adds a bit of whimsy, which agrees with the shimmering celestial bop of this MIDI. Rubix has always been a whiz kid at picking soundtracks. The final fight busts out a second cyber demon and sears you with a sniping spider and a Kako flock in the second half, but this is a loving caress compared to what's coming. As an aesthetic blueprint and no BS tutorial, Amethyst 2 is about as good as it gets. Grade A, difficulty B+. Map 2, Mud Bunny. Smart, enthralling.
Mud Bunny. Alright.
And uncompromising, Mud Bunny is one of my favorite Rubix maps. Stardate's rugged browns are naturally suited to spelunking, but this underground aesthetic has been quite influential. Mud Bunny's DNA proliferate.
Alright, so I'm gonna highlight this once we're done. Sorry, I keep pausing it. We're gonna highlight this once I finish the reaction. And if you watch just the individual video highlight, you won't be able to see the chat. So I wanted to stop to just read what the fuck I just read, so that it can be immortalized in the video. Purple Splash is incidentally the name of Grimace's porno. Alright, now that we got that in there, let's continue.
Rated to at least 2 maps of 180 MPV, the 8th level of 10x10, Tourniquet's Miasma, map 9 from the 1x1 community project, and more. You could say it bred like a rabbit. While it's less hostile than later maps, Mud Bunny ladles on a lot more sauce than map 1, and specializes in Too Close for Comfort. After the first 2 fights ease you into the water, the rocket launcher Honor Guard...
Oh, Barons and Hell Knights throwing purple projectiles. That's cursed.
Port of Hell Nope.
Also, you got rid of the best color. You got rid of green.
Will hold your head under it. Infighting is so essential to Stardate's combat identity that I've come to believe Rubix considers it an art form. He dedicates at least 1 encounter per map to painting with the demon's chaotic evil, and in Mud Bunny, the teleporter courtyard is his largest canvas. As infernals blink around the arena unpredictably, your only recourse is to use the demons themselves as cover, distracting them long enough to endure the barrage and escape. The second phase is a bit much, though. If you roll a 1, you get splattered. No ifs, ands, or buts. Mud Bunny's action is stellar, but it's the air of mystery that glues it together. I dig the MIDI in these climbing secrets all the way to China. Grade A, difficulty A+. Map 3, Foxhole. Given downhill momentum by one of James Paddock's most stirring midis, Mud Bunny Part 2 pares down the exploration and cranks up the thermostat. The opening Archvile Ballet has electric chemistry with your double barrel, but if you ever want to get out of these caves, you're going to need something with more oomph. If you say you found this shootable switch without help, you're probably lying, but however you got it, you better hang on to the secret button.
Hold on, let me see that again. Oh,
found this shootable switch.
Bullshit! Bullshit! That blends in so well.
Probably lying, but however you got it, you better hang on to the secret plasma rifle till later. The rocket launcher lives in the Revenant Longhouse, which doubles as Foxhole's in-fight art installation. I have no idea when to wake up the Revenants, and tend to let the Hell Nobles and Imps confound the center without engaging the...
That actually looks really difficult. Because you wake up the Revenants with the Cyber Demon, you have to listen behind you, either look at the Cyber Demon to dodge his rockets visually, and then listen behind you for the Revenants, or swap it around and look at the Revenants and then listen for the Cyber Demon's footsteps and dodge the rockets that way. That might be easier because I think the footsteps are louder, but good
No
lord.
idea when to wake up the Revenants, and tend to let the Hell Nobles and Imps confound the center
That is also assuming you can't leave this room.
without engaging the Cyber Demon enough. Thankfully, you don't have to understand how Doom fights work to enjoy them. The rocket launcher offers firepower sufficient to wrest the yellow key from these clamoring grunts, and then you're on to the final fight. This clockwork death machine unleashes waves of monsters by elevator, teleport, and tunnel. As usual, the Cyber Demons are a necessary evil, but their errant shots are especially deadly amidst the herds of Hell Knights, fat arachnos, and clouds of meatball offspring. Such anti-circle strafing measures may be maddening, but desperation is what makes this battle one of Stardate's most memorable. Jimmy has your back. Give him your panic, and he'll alchemize it into adrenaline.
Ooh.
Three maps in and I'm already sucking wind.
Are you asking for a challenge?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am. Grade A, difficulty X-. Map 4, Tanagra. The closest thing to a break map Stardate's got, this space station stages more small to mid-sized scraps than big event fights. The opening Revenant, Mancubus, and Imp shotgunning, the double Archie sting that follows, this other surprise archvile backed by a trickling elevator, and the blue key deathmatch are all compact, incisive encounters that squeeze without crushing. Good thing, too, because Tanagra has 3 vicious fights you'll need to catch your breath for. The yellow key deck was built to intimidate, and negotiating its torrent of Hell Knights, Cacos, Pain Elementals, and hapless Cyber Commanders is certainly touch and go, but you have to weather an even wilder storm to get there. A simple setup of waiting for a lot of Hell Nobles to grind down 3 Cyber Demons becomes a timed minigame that tests the player's cyber infighting instincts.
I briefly recognize this room because I think I saw Spectre do this one.
Without letting them miss a step in the fireball dodge dance. Infighting is an art form. That it gives you just one soul sphere of leeway takes this fight from hard to hardest, but the finale may mangle first-timers worse. If you burn all your rockets in round 1, containing the Archvile Quartet becomes unfeasible. Admittedly, Tanagra blends into Stardate's back half for me, but it's a fine level and wastes nothing. Grade A-, difficulty A+. Map 5, Sector 8. Only Stardate's first and
we're in
second
Midgar
maps
now.
have fewer monsters than Sector 8, but it definitely does not feel short-staffed. I must not be the only one who gets intimidated by the sheer orderliness of Ribix's work. His maps are always so dense, premeditated, and layered. Rooms serve different functions and generate new iterations of fights the further along you get, and every encounter shows meticulous love and care in monster selection, visual presentation, and pacing. The Cacos in this enclosure come at you on 3 different vertical planes, both for aesthetic pleasure and increased firepower, and the slow escalation of the Red Key Corpse Collections box all but guarantees a vile punchline. Observant players get to cap the Spider Demon basement with a telefrag, and the freaky purple invuln can be lowered with a switch in the very room.
That does look awkward a little bit.
Once you both unlock and lower the yellow key, scale the Void Stair and get ready for a painful boning. If you dump enough rockets into the hole...
Would you like to repeat that for the class, Mr. Mountain?
Lower the yellow key, scale the Void Stair, and get ready for a painful boning. If you dump enough rockets into the Horde and
That caught me
squeeze
off
the
guard.
welder until you see daylight, there's some health and ammo in the back room, plus a switch which frees a cyber
You gonna give him the mountain, Mr. Mountain?
distraction. I forgot about you. This merciless ending seals off one of Stardate's most unexpectedly exhausting maps. Not a single goddamn thing for free here. Grade A-, difficulty X-. Map 6, Vihelitz. Relentless. Relentless! In Vihelitz, the following fights are considered business as usual. 6 archviles in a room full of columns, a Mancubus and Cyber Demon gladiator match with skinny spectators, this Revenant and Meatball sandwich overseen by 2 archviles, the U of Destruction, and Octomancubus.
Good God.
Jesus Christ. Even with preparation, this map takes me an hour to beat. I think Ribix should have second-guessed his MIDI choice considering, because enough... can make a good man turn bad. Lower the volume and don't quit, because you can't miss this sterling piece of infighting art. The red key defenders are so numerous and such bad shots that they squabble themselves into a maze of bodies and projectiles that the cybers slowly tear apart. It's beautiful. Grind your way through Hell Knight Towers for a blue key, have a great time platforming downhill on poles with turns, and you'll arrive at the final fight. But did you know about Kudos? A precise sequence of jumps in the U of destruction leads to an ultra-secret yellow key which operates this hidden switch. With Kudos, you don't have to worry about damaging floor.
Oh my god, it's damaging floor. Yeah, this fight sucks, probably.
If you've done this fight without Kudos once, you don't need to feel bad about having cheated to obtain it, because, well, imagine taking 5 damage per second while doing this. Doom mortals will feel like chickens on rotisserie and be—
That would just piss me off. That's just not a fun fight. I'm sorry, it just isn't. There's nothing fun about damaging floor in a hard fight. It's just bad, in my opinion.
Helots, but hopefully they'll escape the Cirque de Mort with a healthy hankering for revenge. God knows that's the surest route to improving at this game. Grade A, difficulty X. To preserve the final map's gravitas, we're going to warp from here to map 31, hyperspace.
Okay.
Maybe I just can't take a joke, but hyperspace is really unpleasant, and easily my least favorite level in the archvile-only genre. By the time you figured out what the hell you're supposed to do here, Rubix has blown you up, chased you around while you're weaponless, taunted you with an SSG out of grabbing range and under a ceiling 8 units too short for forehead clearance, tripwire teleported you back into danger with no warning or reason, blocked your desperate vial jump attempts with even more archvials, punished you for finding secret shells, and baited you with an invuln that sends you to certain death. It's complete bullshit. I hate everything about this map except the Speed of Doom ripoff at the end. Grade D-, difficulty A+.
I'd have to probably play it to weigh in on that, but yikers. It seems like a Kama Sutra map almost.
Map 7, Magnus. The scariest thing—
Oops! I dropped my monster condom that I use for my magnum dong. It's not even the same thing, but it just reminded me of that.
The thing about Magnus is how much it holds back. The final map in a set like this should be devoid of mercy. At no point should you ever expect to cry, "That was easy," but there's a good chance you will. Fights like the Kako and Pinky Cross, the pulsing red tunnel with its soft ambushes and ample cover, the short-lived and conspicuously mild Vihelit's platforming reprise, and the nearly harmless half-dozen Dr. Finkelsteins in the blue key battle may have you chuckling to yourself. Magnus feeds on your overconfidence. These relatively innocuous encounters work in concert with the unrelenting MIDI to erode your nerves, bit by bit. The agonizing build-up only adds to the teleporter room's already profound unfairness. Rubix's deadliest and most provocative piece of infight art would drag down my view of the whole map if what comes next didn't counterbalance it. After dropping hints of cosmic horror across 6 maps of purple Exoterra, Stardate 20XD6 opens the floodgates on it here. Nothing in this wad can compete with the thunderous catharsis of the yellow key chamber, and it somehow manages to multiply when you grab the prize. Hopefully you found the switch that accesses the invuln perch, because even with an orgy of megaspheres, it isn't viable to approach the Chain Gunner Plex and its vile orchestra. What an incredible room, you think? One of the best I've ever seen. I'm so glad I'm done. Oh, wait.
Uh-oh. Oh my god. Oh god!
Magnus is a map about futility. For 40 minutes, it coddles and tortures and tempts you, and after finally giving you the payoff you crave, it grins like the devil and says, "How about one more?" 20 archvials followed by a weird glut of revenants, imps, vials, and 3 cyber turrets should not terrify me as much as this does. I have survived worse, but Magnus has already violated you psychologically. You should be finished already, but you're not, and it's backbreaking. I've never beaten this map or this wad. I've only endured it. This
I was about to say.
One of Doom Modding's great feel-bad endings. Grade A, difficulty X.
I look forward to experiencing it. I actually do. I look forward to conquering the beast.
So, in the last decade, Rubix has evolved into the community's most formidable creative force, and even though Stardate depends on a few key influences, its author's intelligence, exactitude, and artistic fearlessness were apparent from the outset. Even after 5 years of consistent Doom playing, I never feel prepared to play this wad, and the last 2 levels laid the wood to me. But
ah yes, the premier Stardate 2066 map, Tricks and Traps.
An idiot would complain about getting whipped after they went looking for it. Stardate's continuity and production values are immaculate, and it's almost inconceivable that it's free and known to so few people outside the community. We are witnesses to something very special here. Don't forget that. My final grade for Stardate 20XD6 is an A. Difficulty-wise, this has got to be the hardest episode-length WAD I've covered on the show, so it feels right to give it the first X for overall. Congrats, I guess. Now for my Dean's List. Valedictorian, Map 2, Mud Bunny. Salutatorian, Map 3, Foxhole, Class President, Map 7,
You're right, actually, yeah, CM, you're right, yeah. It is not tricks and traps. There's purple everywhere. It is traps and tricks. You are right. Don't screenshot this.
Agnes, and the dunce cap goes to, obviously, Map 31, Hyperspace. And that was not quite Sunlust.
Yeah!
Thank you very much for watching, and please feel free to share your thoughts on the WADs down below. I'd love to hear what you think, and I'll heart your comments to let you know I've read them. Now, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge my generous patrons.
That's us!
Alan, Agile,
Hell yeah. Alright, let me skip to the end here real quick.
and Huber. Thank you all so much for a great season. I appreciate each and every one of you. This is Mount Pain 27, and I'll see you on graduation day.
Yeah! Oh, I'm very excited for graduation day. Oh, wait, there's more.
Or maybe a bit earlier.
I heard the giggling at the end. I heard the giggling at the end. Hold on.
Or maybe a bit earlier.
You're right there. Hey, it's me! Oh. Hey, you know, why is it recommending my fucking stream to me? Well, whatever. Anyway, yeah, you're right. April Fool's is coming up, huh? I was thinking about doing something special. Not like April Fool's themed, but like around that time. Around that time, I am gonna get I don't want to click this because I feel like it's just gonna be neuroception. But I feel like around that time, I'm gonna have like a bunch of free time. So I was thinking of doing something special around then. It just so happened to it just so happens to line up that way. But anyway, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mountain. I look forward to April Fools.